modernization. Modernization is an important priority of the Copyright Office, and a continuous public dialogue is an important component of the process. We will be taking questions after the presentation. You can submit questions through the Q&A panel on the right side of the WebEx screen. You might have to expand the panel by clicking on the arrow next to where the label Q&A appears. Our program today will be presented by Acting Register of Copyrights Karen Temple and Copyright Modernization Office Director Ricardo Faraj Fejo. So without further ado, we'll turn the mic over to Acting Register Karen Temple. Please bear with us. We are having technical difficulties with the audio. We'll be back with the Acting Register of Copyrights in a moment. Okay, here we go. This is Acting Register of Copyrights, Karen Temple.
Thank you, Ananda, and sorry, everyone, for the technological difficulties as we begin talking about technology improvements to the Copyright Office. But hello, and thank you for joining us today. It actually has been a big year for modernization, and we know that everyone is eager to understand where we are in the process. Copyright modernization is all about making the Copyright Office's services more useful to all of you and making the office more efficient. The nation's copyright system benefits everyone who uses it, including those who work in copyright industries, those who seek to use creative works, and the public at large. The Copyright Office plays an essential role in this important ecosystem, and that makes modernization of the Copyright Office important to all those who have a stake in the copyright system. We have already taken important steps to streamline and update our practices and reduce pendency of registration applications. The last year actually represented an important milestone, marking the first time that the office received dedicated funding from Congress for modernization, and also the establishment of the Copyright Modernization Office. Our first priority has been to start modernizing the Copyright Office's aging information technology systems. The office has been working in partnership with the Library of Congress's Office of the Chief Information Officer to develop the applications and systems that will serve all those who depend on the efficiency of the copyright system. We have taken major steps in development of an automated recordation system, a next-generation enterprise registration system, and digitization of our legacy card catalog. Much is still ahead of us, and we will welcome your interest and participation throughout the entire process. We hope that this will be one of many opportunities for you to share and exchange ideas about what has been accomplished and what lies ahead from your perspective as well as from ours. With that in mind, I would like to introduce the Director of the Copyright Modernization Office, Ricardo Faraj Fejo. The Copyright Modernization Office, as I mentioned, was established last year. Their job is to coordinate all modernization efforts, including project management, budgeting, and process flow on behalf of the Copyright Office through one central department. Without further ado, I will turn it over to Ricardo.
Thank you, Karen, and good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, hopefully, if you're in different parts of the country. So in the next slide, what is the modernization will do? What is the purpose of the modernization for the Copyright Office? So the main goal, we have four, is to build a new enterprise copyright system featuring a user-centered design and flexible design. In other words, we need your feedback, we need your input. We want to make this system that is user-friendly and that can actually works for you as a customer. We want to internally streamline our processes, our policies. We want to improve access to our information, and we are rethinking the entire office as a whole. When we call modernization, is one of those things that we want to make sure that it's encompass all. We want to make the benefits, some of the benefits, we want to make the information more accessible. We have several initiatives on the way to accomplish that. We want to encourage a user-friendly interface and again, to make the application process more user-friendly and easy to do compared to what the current system provides. We, again, want to provide a faster service with fewer errors. And we want to streamline the information, how things are being, how we communicate to you, how we work with you as an office. Also, we want to integrate services. We want to have a one-stop presence. So when you work with us in the copyright office or interface with the system, it's one system that you're interfacing, not multiple. And we want to keep our focus on our external customers, internal staff, and always grow and enhance as we move along. So how we see modernization, the components of modernization, is more than technology. Is technology, process, organizations, and people. All of them tied together. And as the picture illustrates, they're all intertwined. They connect with each other. And we have to understand our process internally. We have to understand the organization. We have to understand our people. And in the end, we will get a better technology product for everyone. So who is the CMO? So as Karen stated, the CMO was established a year ago, and there's three major sections that we in the Copyright Modernization Office focus on: program and project management, data management, and business analysis. So as you know, last year the Copyright Modernization Office issued a request for information, or an RFI, in May 7, and subsequent to that RFI, there was an industry day that we invited industry and to come back and propose to listen to the Copyright Office of our initiatives that we're trying to do when it comes to modernization, and with the end goal to get feedback from industry on how can we accomplish this modernization effort. We need industry to be partners with us, to work with us, and the end goal of this request for information is to request for proposal, where we hope that we get the same participation from the RFI and get proposals back. The Library of Congress is currently working on putting the Library of Congress Office of the Chief Information Officer is currently working and putting together the RFP, and hopefully it will be out in the coming months. So stay tuned to that. So what are we working on now? So currently, the CMO office and the Copyright Office is working in the enterprise copyright system. The ECS, as we call it, is the all-encompass system that covers all aspects of the copyright system. We are doing a business process reengineering. Again, we want to ensure that we are not just upgrading something that is already there. We want to look at our processes. We want to look, are we doing things the correct way? Can we improve how we do our business? We actually are doing a comprehensive access to our public record. We want our customers, our public, to see the information that the Copyright Office have and make it more transparent. And with that, we have a data management initiative that is actually helping us record, catalog our data. Our most important asset that is our data. Also, we have an outreach effort that is, we have been reaching out to customers, external stakeholders across the United States, and even providing surveys and feedback to try to ensure that we understand your needs and as a customer and as a user of the copyright system. So to go more in details, what we're working on, the current initiatives, for example, the virtual card catalog. The purpose of the catalog is to allow the public to browse the drawers from 1955, 1977. If you've ever been to the Copyright Office, it's actually a card catalog room that you can actually see this physically. So what this system has been created is so you can actually have a virtual access to those cards. You can actually see the cards that we have stored at the Copyright Office. The intent is to make this accessible to the public, make it more transparent, and what we hope in the end is to expand the card catalog to all the cards that has been in storage in the Copyright Office. The modernization outreach. So as you see in the board, we have gotten a lot of feedback from customers, and we have actually met with industry, and have that targeted and broad set of stakeholders and customers and extended support communities. We have actually done outreach to understand from our customers what are they looking for in a new system, what are the things that they're not working now and it should be improved, and how can we make the system better. So we have actually done interviews in different parts of the United States, Los Angeles, New York, Nashville, and actually send surveys out and got questionnaires out there to obtain feedback from the customers. If you have not received one, please, at the end of the presentation, there will be an email. Send us an email, and we will make sure that you get. We reach out to you and to ensure that you participate in this feedback that we're doing. So the recordation project is actually it's part of the ECS, and it's actually the first component that has been developed. We are updating the current paper-based recordation system to a web-based platform. And the intent is to move away from the paper-based process that we currently have, and it's a total new system. The first phase involved, we are currently in the development work, and there will be a pilot that will be released in 2020 where we will obtain feedback from customers to see are we actually capturing your needs and your requirements as the system should look like. In the end, when we receive all this information and feedback, that's when the system will be redeveloped and tweaked to ensure that we can actually give you as a customer what you're looking for. So in 2020, that will be the first pilot for this system. And the data management, again, I consider this is kind of like the foundation of what we're doing. It's for the first time we are exploring our data across the Copyright Office so that we can publish it online, make it user-friendly, and help us make data-driven decisions. The basic approach is to collect, curate, and disseminate data for betterment for the organization. We have developed an enterprise data model, a data dictionary, and a data management plan. We're currently in phase 2 where we're involving analyzing additional database and they're integrated to our system and the ones that support the Copyright Office. We are looking at the public online catalog application and preparing a data model that can be used as the baseline and for this replacement. So currently, as you can see here, that's the timeline. As Karen says, we're very busy for the years to come. And this is a very high level of what we planning to accomplish. Again, if you have any questions or require more details, there will be an email that we presented in the end of the presentation. But this is the activities, most of the activities that we're doing right now. There's a very high level. There's other activities that happen within those activities. But right from that schedule, you can see. Again, as Karen stated, we're working very closely with the Library of Congress Office of Chief Information Officer, as they're the ones developing the system for us, and they're actually helping us putting the schedule together as the deliverer of the new system. And thank you.
Okay, the first question is, will a copy of the deck be available to the attendees?
Thanks, Ananda. I'll answer that question. Yes, again, as part of our outreach efforts, we really want to make sure that the public has an opportunity to really understand the progress of modernization and to interface with us directly. I think Ricardo might have mentioned, and I'll remind everyone that we have a specific modernization webpage on our copyrightoffice.gov website. So we encourage you to regularly go there for updates. We will, at the end of this session, put up the deck shortly for those who have not been able to attend, as well as for those who would like to just go over some of the things that have been in the deck. Additionally, in the next several weeks, we will be able to actually post this full webinar on both our YouTube channel, and there will be a link on our copyright.gov website. So please look out for that as well.
Okay, next question. How often will the public be updated on modernization progress?
Well, again, that's something that we are really committed in doing. I would encourage those of you who have not signed up yet for our newsnets to make sure you do that. That's our main way where we update the public in terms of all developments with respect to the Copyright Office. So if there's been something that we've issued, recently on modernization, you will get that notice through our newsnet. Again, I would also encourage everybody to regularly check our website. We do plan on at least quarterly updating the website with progress, as well as we're going to have that website in the Modernization webpage include any presentations that we ultimately do for the public. So if we do a copyright conference and you're not able to attend, but the conference includes a presentation on modernization progress, we will put that on our webpage so that anybody can get a general sense of where we are. So again, we are committed to regularly updating all of the public on the progress of modernization at regular intervals.
Next question, will this speed the process of approval of copyright registration?
And of course, that is the gold question. That is, something that is important to not only the office, but we understand to all of the users of our registration system. And so, yes, we are very excited about the possibilities of the improvements in technology enabling us to reduce our pendency time. We also think that not only will it kind of just allow us to process things more quickly, we will be able to do metrics more easily and gather data more easily so that we can actually pinpoint, is there, for example, a delay in one of the divisions versus another, where is the delay coming from, and then be able to direct resources more specifically to address those delays. So people might notice that sometimes, if they're filing a literary work, it takes a certain amount of time. If they're filing a sound recording, it takes a different amount of time. The new system, with its ability to capture data and to manipulate data for us to use in terms of our business operations, will allow us to really narrow down if there are problems and allow us to effectively address those problems. So overall, yes, we expect once the new system goes live that we will be able to significantly reduce the pendency time for applications.
Will there be an impact on the cost of copyright registration? I'm assuming it could go up is the question.
Well, I will say that, for those of you who are not aware, we are actually in the process right now of doing a fee study on registration fees. That is something that the office does do every about 3 to 5 years. And we did have some questions in terms of the fee study about modernization costs. We do expect that some of the costs of the modernization will be borne by fees, but it's not going to be a significant amount of money, and we will certainly talk to all of our stakeholders as we finalize our fee proposals. As I mentioned, this was the first year that we were actually able to get dedicated funding from Congress, and so we were very, very pleased that Congress actually fully funded the request that we made in terms of getting appropriated funds to address modernization. And for that reason, we do not anticipate that copyright registration fees will have to be, have to rise significantly. Again, if you have not reviewed our current fee proposal and fee study, which talks about both the cost to the Office of Registration Services as well as the cost of modernization, I encourage you to go on our website and review that fee study. That was where we proposed the new fees that would go into effect sometime later this year. And also, please look out for our final rule on fees, which we expect to, again, come out sometime in the next several months.
This is a question for Ricardo. Why restrict the proposed system to web-based, since technology has moved beyond this restriction over the years? Okay, we're having trouble reaching Ricardo, so Karen's going to field this question.
Yes, so I'm going to just talk about it generally in terms of where we want to go on copyright IT improvement. One of the things that I've said repeatedly is that we don't want to be wedded to any older models. We want to be able to use the most up-to-date technology that's out there. That is one of the reasons why we have actually decided not to build upon the current system and just add to it, but instead to say that we need to completely do away with the old system and build from the ground up. So my expectation is that because of the way that we are actually building the new system using new methodology like agile methodology, where we're able to be very flexible in terms of changing as new technology is developed, if there is new technology that we have not considered, we will be able to incorporate that new technology in the development of our IT systems. So although we might be focused on one specific avenue right now, again, because of our really, focused on trying to be as agile and flexible as possible, yes, if there are new technologies out there that will make the system more efficient, we will definitely explore those and try to incorporate that in all of our development.
I hope everyone can hear me now. I have to agree with Karen in terms of that. We're not trying to replicate the system that we have in the past, and we're trying to do things in a more modern way as we advance. So I'm echoing, and hopefully everyone can hear me. But I'm echoing what Karen just stated.
Next question: what does the end goal look like in a practical sense? Is it a product that looks and performs like the USPTO's search and registration system? That's for Ricardo.
So the end goal. So one of the things that we're seeing is the system needs to be, one, easy to use, but at the same time have the flexibility that experienced users can actually take advantage of it. So one of the approaches, so that we have kind of like two approaches. One is kind of like the very simple for the novice person that doesn't have an understanding of copyright law. They can actually submit a registration, work on it. It's kind of like the TurboTax approach, if you know. Hopefully, I'm not, And it actually is very simple, very easy to use, and so forth. But for the users that are actually very experienced, the ones that has high volume, there will be a way to actually access the system in a more kind of like expanded way. So the main goal is to make this easy, accessible, simple to use, but at the same time to be efficient. And we don't see as that's kind of like the end goal for our objective, but we don't see the system ever kind of like ending in terms of being of development. We continue. Our goal is to continue to develop the system to ensure that it maintains and it stays modern, it stays up to date as time progresses, and as we learn from getting feedback from our customers on how we can improve the system. We don't want to just stop in one release and be done. We want to continue and make the system evolve and make it more user friendly and more efficient for our customers.
Next question: will processing times be increased?
That's an interesting question because I think that we got the reverse question just a few minutes ago, which is, will processing times decrease? I will say some of you who might have lived through our last ECHO modernization, where we went online, there was a significant increase in processing times. Part of that was just a reflection of the transition from the old paper-based system to the new system, and because we hadn't been able to fully clear out all of the older registration applications, then we kind of built up an additional backlog as we were transitioning over to the new system. We are learning from that experience, and we're taking that very, very seriously, so that what we're trying to do is, one, obviously, as I said before, institute a number of processes to improve and streamline our review of applications so that we can reduce our backlog as much as possible before we transition over to a new system. And then also we're going to try to transition over to a new system in a much more methodological way, so that we actually have that planned out. One of the things that we will do that I don't know that we did last time is ensure that we keep the old system up while the new system is actually deployed for a certain amount of time, while we're, again, making sure that that transition operates smoothly. So, again, that is something that we did experience when we modernized the last time, and we are aware that that was an issue, and we are working and planning to address that now in a number of different ways. So thank you for that question.
Okay, so we have two questions about APIs, so I'm going to ask them together, and I think Ricardo will respond. Are there any plans for an API for agencies to allow their clients to register, for example, photographs through the agency websites? And what kinds of APIs are planned? How would they work? And what is the timeline for their implementation?
So as part of the modernization, so to answer the first question, yes, we are going to have APIs available. And again, there is different ways that this can be implemented. And we are going to be seeking information from the customers to understand, because again, every customer is different, and we want to make sure that we work with them to ensure that they can have access to our data in a very efficient way. So as the timeline, as you saw in the schedule, we are planning to develop APIs as the system is being developed and make them available as components and modules are being finished and developed. So we don't have right now in terms of the details, because as we keep doing outreach, we're finding out more and more as people asking questions, should I be able to have access to this information or to that, all the information. But the intent is to give every of our customers the ability to access this information, make it transparent, ability for other people to see this information and make it simple to do. So yes, the question is yes, we're going to be doing APIs, and if you want for us to give you more details, just send us an email on the ACMO email, and I can go more in details and so forth, and more technical details of what it's planning to do. And I can actually get the office of the Chief Information Officer to actually chime in that question, because they're the actually ones helping us develop this system and this method of actually communicating to you guys.
Has the Copyright Office captured the customer journey mapping with personas to address all needs of the copyright customers? For Ricardo.
So the question, the current modernization outreach that it was done to for the registration front end, they captured, as they met with customers, yes, they captured certain personas of how they see the customers, the customers that work from their home, the customers that actually are the corporate users. They have again, thousands of people that can actually work on that, the musicians, the writers, and so forth. So yes, that has been captured, and we keep capturing and expanding that collection of who are our customers, who are that we need to tailor this system to. So yes, the question is yes, and there's going to be a follow-on effort, as you saw on the schedule, to continue this outreach through the next year or so forth, to expand that image that we have of you, the customer. So yes, the question is yes, we are doing that.
This is for Karen. Can you explain the difference between copyright registration and copyright recordation? And in the modernization process, will copyright renewal records be included? What about transfers of copyright that have been recorded?
Thank you, Ananda. So the main difference, obviously, between copyright registration and copyright recordation, copyright registrations allow you to register your initial claims to copyright. So if you are an author and just wrote a book, and you'll get automatic copyright as soon as you create that book. But if you want to register it with us for certain legal benefits, you can initially file a copyright claim on that literary work and get a copyright registration certificate, which, among other things, will allow you to get into court if your work has been infringed. If subsequently you transfer the rights in that book to a later owner who has legal rights in your work. For example, you might want to make that work into a film and you transfer ownership rights. The subsequent transfer of those ownership rights can then be recorded with the Copyright Office. And this is a combination of both the copyright registration and the copyright recordation system within the office. Allows you to really have a full understanding of the life of that particular copyright. So you will be able to, by searching our records, be able to figure out who the initial author is of that work, who created that work, and then hopefully if subsequent transfers and ownership are recorded or assignments are recorded with us, you will be able to figure out who might own various licenses in the work if you also want, or who might now actually own all of the exclusive rights in that work. So registration and recordation certainly work together to be able to tell somebody the full life cycle of that particular copyrighted work. That's why we do think it is important that as we modernize, we ensure that those systems are able to work together. Our hope is that ultimately once our system is up, that you will be able to enter a specific copyrighted work into our system, and you will be able to very, very easily, again, pull up all of the records that relate to that work. So you would be able to access very easily with one push of a button both the registration certificate as well as any documents that might have been recorded with respect to that work, which would include any transfers of ownership, which is, I think, the second question that you just mentioned.
A lot of the questions deal with the mechanics of the registration process itself. Will this have any change on the actual law?
Well, that's a very good question. As many people know, our registration system implements some legal requirements that are already, in the law. For example, in registration, we have to ask about whether a creative work is published or unpublished. That is actually not something that we came up with. That is actually something legally that we're required to do under the copyright law. What we're hoping to do to make sure that our approach to modernization is as holistic as possible is to, again, look at areas, as we're modernizing our system, look at areas that actually impact the efficiency of our processes more generally, not just on the IT side, and update those processes as we need to. Many people who've been following, for example, our rulemakings have noticed that we have issued a number of proposed rulemakings in the course of the last few years. So we will continue to do that in terms of updating our regulatory processes as we update our system, and then certainly to the extent as we are modernizing that there is a need for us to recommend an actual change in Title 17 to, again, help the system to be more efficient. That's something that certainly we would consider as well. But our focus right now is ensuring that our system and our internal processes that are, based on our regulatory requirements, that those are updated at the same time.
I'm going to ask the next two questions together. Is the modernization described here limited to recordation registration only, or will, for example, the form of submitting a motion picture be updated as well? And will the file size be increased for uploading sound recordings? Ricardo?
So the answer to that question is going to be expanded. It's not only recordation and registration. We're actually modernizing, creating system for our licensing division. We're creating systems internally. So it's not only those two components. So when it comes to the uploading information and the size, we are actually talking internally, gathering requirements, and that's one item that we have always discussed about how much data we can actually upload and so forth. So that is something that we are talking about because, again, we need to work with the Library of Congress Office of the CIO to ensure that the capability and the technology is there to allow us to do that. But as I understand, yeah, that's a requirement that we want to address. And again, if you have any specific thing that we need to be able to capture, if you send us an email, that will be very great. We know we have captured that information, and it's a question that even in Industry Day, the industry that came and the companies came asked the same question. And I know we provide a level of capability now to upload, but is what size that you we can upload and how much size we can. So we want to address all our customers' concern and be able to be flexible to meet your needs. And so if you guys can send us an email, that would be great.
We're going to give this question to Katie Rowland in Public Information and Education. If I have general questions about copyright, not necessarily about modernization, whom can I contact?
So this is Katie, and you can contact us. We have a phone number at our Public Information Office. It's 202-707-3000, or we have a toll-free number, 877-476-0778. We are familiar with answering all sorts of copyright questions about applications and other copyright issues. We also have a lot of information on our website. So we have circulars and fact sheets, and we also have our compendium, which gives a lot of information about a ton of different copyright things.
And now we'll have our final question. We're running out of time. The question is, are there any training initiatives in consideration for internal and external users for the new systems? Ricardo?
So the answer is yes. As part of the modernization, we are going to have an internal, when it comes to training for internal users, but also create handouts, pamphlets, quick guides of how to use the new system for external users. All this information will be available in our website as the systems are being developed and being released. The intent is to show the customer that it's very easy to use, but give all the information on how to do it. One of the requirements, too, that we make it on the new system is to have the ability to provide help files or even an intuitive way that while you're in the system, you can actually navigate it or ask questions or even dialogues that can actually explain what each function will do. So we are planning to do that, and for external customers, for our users, and internally we planning to do a comprehensive training for as the new system is being deployed and implemented to our customers.
So there were a lot of questions we weren't able to get to, but we will be having more webinars, and we can address them then. And you can also send us questions by email and other means. Now we're going to go to Karen again for a wrap-up.
Thank you, Ananda, and thank you for everyone who's joined. As you can see, this is our very, very first webinar, and so we're still working out a few kinks and improving our technology so that next time I expect that it will be even more smooth. But again, we really appreciate the time that you have taken to invest in the progress of modernization for the Copyright Office. One thing that I have said repeatedly when I've spoken to external users about modernization is that we do see this as a partnership with all of our stakeholders. So we want to make sure that we build a system that you will actually want to use. Our goal is to increase the number of applications that we get each year because of the ease of the system and the efficiency of our registration and recordation processes. So as we continue to develop our modernization efforts, I encourage you to work with us closely. If there are any issues whatsoever that you want us to look into, again, we are committed to working with you in a partnership to provide the type of services that you come to expect from a top-notch agency. So again, thank you very much for joining us here at the Copyright Office as we begin our modernization journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and please do join us for our future webinars.